Good afternoon, and welcome to City Speaks. My name is Vicki Westling, and we are here today at the City of Dunkirk Wastewater Treatment Plant with our Chief Operator, Sean Rayner. Before we get started, though, Sean, I have a couple of questions, so if you can just bear with me for a second. For those of you watching, City Speaks is a show that was a vision of Mayor Rosas. Mayor Rosas wanted to make sure that the residents of Dunkirk understand what's going on within his administration, within his departments, and certainly what's happening with our infrastructure, especially our wastewater treatment plant, our water filtration plant, and all of our infrastructure. So that's what this show is about. If you have questions, if you have comments, send those to me, vwestling@cityofdunkirk.com. Mail them at City Hall, 342 Central Avenue, Dunkirk 14048, or drop them off at City Hall in the clerk's office to my attention, and we'll get your questions answered. In the meanwhile, I have some questions that came in this past week, so let me see if I can get those out of the way. First of all, high grass. High grass continues to be a problem. Our housing and building department is taking calls. They continue to work with our residents to ensure compliance. Several calls were made to me personally this past week, and I've addressed them with our housing and building office, and follow-up calls and contacts have been made. So let's hope that these issues have been put to rest. Another question that came in was, why aren't the arrests that are made in the city of Dunkirk listed in the local newspaper like other municipalities? I spoke with Chief Ortolano. There's an arrest book that's located in the police department, and the observer reporters are welcome to come in and review the arrests listed at any time. If there's an ongoing investigation, however, that information may not be readily available due to the obvious confidentiality of the investigation. However, I've also spoken further with Chief Ortolano, and he has said that he continues to try to get the word out when there is a problem. For instance, I had a question by two different people who asked about the man that was following women through Walmart. Chief Ortolano said that this is an excellent question. The Dunkirk Police Department wants to keep its residents informed. There's a link on the DPD website next to up on the top of the line, and it reads, "Next door neighbor." Information is posted about suspicious activity within neighborhoods. Postings can be made directly to the site by the residents. This is a case, if you see something, say something. Let someone know. If you want to know what's happening, or if you hear of suspicious activity, go to the website, and the real-time information is available. If there are questions, concerns, residents can contact Sergeant Chris Witkowski at the police department, 366-2266, and he'll be happy to help you. Also, a question came in about the apartment building on Main Street that's being constructed by Stell. I spoke with our DPW Director, Randy Woodbury. Director Woodbury told me that while this is a Stell project, the city is not involved in the Stell housing. However, he will speak with the Stell individuals to find out what's going on. And we have a special announcement. The music on the pier that was canceled a couple of weeks ago due to the inclement weather forecast has been rescheduled. The Chicago Authority, with opening act Fallen Union, will be performing on Thursday, September 13th. This event is sponsored by Philbrook Foods. Our special events and festivals coordinator, Hector Rosas, was really excited and pleased to have been able to reschedule these two bands. Everyone likes them. They're a favorite among our residents. So come out and enjoy Chicago Authority and the Fallen Union on Thursday, September 13th. So now, with that being said, we have our Chief Operator, Sean Rayner. Sean, we're out here at your plant. This is your domain, your kingdom. We're going to take a short tour. Tell us a little bit about what's going on at the wastewater treatment plant.
Well, I work at the wastewater plant for the city of Dunkirk, so it's not my plant. So anyway, we do the best we can here to take care of the equipment and do our job to clean the water before we let it go into the lake. The plant is going through some upgrades right now where we've changed out our 2 bar screens. We got 2 brand new bar screens in operation right now. We're almost finished with our grit system. There'll be a grit removal building installed too. That'll be online shortly, and we are doing a repair too on our force main here in the yard. That's done. It's just a matter of hooking the grit building up to that force main. So we're moving right along.
Now, you talk about the different buildings. You talk about the grit building. Tell me a little bit. When we say grit building, what are we talking about? What gets filtered through there?
Okay, so your wastewater comes in a plant, or some plants are different than ours, but ours, for the city, we have main pumps that pump water out of a well, and it goes through the screens. Well, actually, it comes in, it goes through the screens before it goes to the pumps, but the grit gets taken out after the pumps. So we have a building that's set up to take the grit out of the wastewater that comes in.
So now, how small or how minute or how big does this grit system handle? I mean, for instance, if I hear things like it can handle coffee grounds or it can handle bottles or trash, tell me a little bit about what kinds of things are filtered out, if you will, through this grit system.
The trash part goes through the bar screen, and that gets pretty much, but anything like coffee grounds, sand, rocks, gravel, that eggshells, that type of material will go to the grit tank, and it'll be filtered out in the grit tank.
Okay, now we're going to take a little tour. I want to meet some of your people. We're going to go up to the lab. So shall we do that now? We should start with your lady at the desk, because she's the keeper of the security here when people come in. Is that correct?
That's correct. She makes sure that everybody signs in, that we know people are here, that, if we need to get them to a safe spot, we got everybody accounted for.
Okay, let's go meet Kim. Hi, Kim. Now, we're here with City Speaks. We want to know what's going on at the plant. We understand that you're one of the main cogs in the wheel, because without you, anybody could just come in. So tell me a little bit about who you are and your job.
I'm Kim Robbins. I am the Secretary Administrative Assistant down here. Everybody that comes through the door must sign in the logbook. We have cameras on security, so everybody that comes in has to sign in, so in case there's an emergency or anything going on down here, everyone is accounted for. And they've learned that if they don't sign in, then there will be consequences. So, but I answer the phones, I take care of all the purchase orders and vouchers, order all the supplies, all the chemicals, all the safety equipment, take care of the time cards, the monthly scheduling, the overtime slips, and anything else that Sean needs me to help him with, the monthly reports. So everybody, I'm the first person they see pretty much when they come in the door.
Well, okay, and we're glad to have you. Now, you transferred down, and we're delighted to have you here and doing all that you do, because I only hear wonderful things about you, even from Sean. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to head where now, Sean?
I go to the lab.
Okay. Now, is the lab a secured area?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, much of the plant is a secured area, right?
Yes.
We have an elevator, and he made us take the stairs. Okay, here we are with Jeff Deers. Jeff, you're one of our lab techs. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you do.
What is I do? I'm more of a support staff at the moment, but I run samples, mostly assist right now with Steve Hughes, the senior lab technician, but I run biological, chemical, and physical properties of wastewater.
Okay, and we have Steve Hughes coming up behind us here. Steve, now you've been around a while. Tell us a little bit about who you are and how long you've been in the plant.
Next month I'll be starting my 27th year. I've worked in the lab as a lab technician all those years, and as Jeff said, we perform all the chemical and physical analyses required by state and federal regulatory agencies on all the wastewater samples that come into the plant and the stuff we send out. So we have to do tests every day on all the samples and make sure they satisfy all the requirements required by the state and federal agencies.
Okay, now that sounds like a pretty important job.
It's very important. It's very important to keep Lake Erie clean for everybody's drinking water.
Okay, all right. Thank you. She's ready.
Hello, Sue.
Hi, how are you, Suzanne? Hi, I'm Vicki Westling with City Speaks, and we're here to talk about the wastewater treatment plant, what happens, what's going on, and you're pretty important because you're the director of this lab, correct? Tell me a little bit about what you do and how long you've been here.
Oh, I've been here for 28 years, almost 28 years, and excuse me, I lose my voice. The laboratory tests plant samples for the federal government, state government, county. We're highly regulated by government entities. And then we analyze industrial samples. The industrial samples results go to EPA and for billing purposes.
Okay, so you stay pretty busy
All the time.
all the time.
Something to do, yep.
Now we have some lab techs that obviously you're working with and you're training. So it's going to take them a few years to catch up with where you are.
Steve has been with us for quite a few years, and he knows everything right now. Jeff is pretty new, and he's learning. And he will eventually get all the analyses down and be able to do what Steve does.
Okay, now the lab obviously is a pretty important part to the wastewater treatment plant because without the lab doing all the testing and checking everything going in and coming in and going out, we might be in trouble. So,
Right. Especially because everything is just highly regulated by the government.
so you have a lot of forms and things you have to fill out, I take it.
Yeah, can you tell? Papers all over.
Okay, well, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and I appreciate 28 years. Wow.
Every day is different. Also, just there's always something new going on here. You never know.
Well, that's great. All right, Sean, where are we off to?
You can go down in the process lab. That's where the operators and trainees will do some lab work that Suzanne's involved with training these people too as well.
All right.
Right.
All right, well, let's go.
Okay. Thank you, Suzanne. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. So this is quite the plant, quite the operation that you have here, Sean, with all of the different people. I think that most people are not always aware of just what happens. You know, all the testing, the lab work to make sure that things are within the guidelines and the regulations, as well as all of the screening out of the chemicals, the debris that must come in. And
Yeah, as Suzanne said, there's never, a dull moment here. There's always something to be done. So we're moving constantly. It's a big facility. I think it's a 4-acre facility. Right now we're standing above the pump room down below 5 stories. So that's where the wastewater comes into the plant from gravity flow. For the majority of the city, it's gravity flow, which means we're just using gravity to let the water come down the pipes instead of pumping through the pipes. We only in the city of Duncan, we only have 2 lift stations. They're lower areas, so we have to bring that wastewater up to a grade where it's going to flow down to the plant. So it's a pretty big place and a pretty integrated system.
Now, you talked about the amount of the wastewater coming down so it can flow through the plant. When we talk about wastewater, I mean, I'm sure that people think certainly of their toilets and those sorts of things, but there's also the stuff from the street that comes in. Tell me a little bit, what should people do or not do when it comes to flushing, sending stuff down drains, dumping stuff in storm drains?
Okay, so for the storm drains, we want to keep our properties clean. We want to keep our roads clean. let's pick up after ourselves and make sure, there's no trash getting into the storm sewers. It's going to go to two places. It's either going to go to the plant here. We should be able to take it out with the new bar screens, but in the past, we've had problems with equipment failing because of things that shouldn't be in the sewer. So it would either go there or it would go to the lake in a storm sewer or some type of stream. As far as flushing things down the toilet, the basic thing to remember are the 3 Ps. That's your pee, your poo, and your paper. That's all that should go down the toilet. So.
Okay, so when we talk about, let's talk about the street stuff first. So if I'm walking down the street and I have a candy wrapper and I just drop it, there's a good chance eventually that's going to get washed down into a storm drain somewhere. Can our system handle that when it comes back through?
Yes, it should be able to take a wrapper out.
Okay, but then there's some other things. Now, if I'm doing something like washing my car in the driveway and I have my soap and my chemicals, what should I do with that water?
That water could be treated, so it could be put down your toilet drain.
The toilet drain. Okay, very good. So when we talk about keeping our properties clean, we really don't want to throw stuff into the storm drains. Right. We really want to make sure that we practice the 3 Ps for our toilet when we flush. So those things are important. And as a taxpayer and as a resident, I have a responsibility because this is my plant. My taxes go here. So everything that you all do that creates overtime or that creates more problems or that creates some kind of downtime, that can impact the taxpayer. Is that correct?
Sure.
Okay. What kinds of things do you see the most that become you consider would be violations or things that would not be good for people to throw down their drains?
Well, like paint products or household chemical products, stuff like that. The county has they have a drop-off. So that can be taken care of at the drop-off if you want to get rid of paint and any household chemicals that you don't want anymore. It's better off taking it to the drop-off.
Okay, very good. All right, well, let's head on down to where we were going to see what's going. Okay. So now, does this building cover the full 4 acres or?
Part of it.
All right.
Excuse me.
Okay, so this is the process lab?
This is the process lab. This was built in the 90s.
So now tell me what it does.
Okay. What the operators do here is they'll collect samples and they'll bring them in every other hour, and we keep a log. Excuse me.
That's okay.
The operators keep a log here every day, every shift. There's 3 shifts. We're here three shifts, 24/7, 365. So Christmas Day when you're flushing your toilet, we're working. So anyway, they record what the flow is coming into the plant. We record pH and we record our wet well level and the characteristics of the wastewater that's coming in. So they have a log here, and they do have a log here that helps us with our treatment process. So our process control is what we'll go out and we'll take samples on the tanks that are treating the wastes, and we'll get data and we'll put it on this process control log, and it helps us determine whether or not we should waste more or not, or add nutrients or not, or chlorinate or not. The chlorination is used in the aeration tanks to manage filament problems that tend to cause our settling to be bad. And when we have bad settling, we have bad effluent.
Okay, now, because I'm certainly not well versed in some of this, and I'm sure some of our residents are not either, what is bad settling?
Okay, so the activated sludge process, what we do is we cultivate a culture of bacteria out in the aeration tanks. They need air, they need nutrients, and what happens is the population grows, and it's a population not only of bugs but solids. So you've got solids out there, and they need to settle properly in the final clarifiers. This is where it settles out, and the water stays on top. So the water that comes off the top of that is the water that comes into our chlorine contact tank. It gets chlorinated, dechlorinated, then it goes to the lake. the solids remain in the tanks. The water goes out. So what we'll do is we'll recycle the solids to keep the process going, and then we'll waste some.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll accept that.
Okay.
Okay. So our process lab is pretty important, obviously. So this comes through. Now then the reports from the process lab must go up to the lab upstairs. Is that correct?
The lab director helps us in the training of collecting the samples. The samples that go upstairs are kept in here, our refrigerator. We collect them on a daily basis here at the plant. So we've got 3 sample sites at the plant. We have an influent sampler, we have a primary effluent sampler, and we have an effluent sampler. So that draws a 24-hour composite sample. So every 24 hours we collect the sample, and then we pour them off into the sample bottles for the appropriate tests that the lab's going to do. So those are the things that the lab will use to do their testing.
So if I were to take a leap of faith here, I might say that when the waste comes into the wastewater treatment plant, before it is actually final filtered or whatever and sent out, it is in pretty good shape.
Correct. Yep.
And we're moving on the plant. We've done a lot of things. We have some construction that's going on. We're almost through with phase 1. Is that correct?
Yes, we're getting towards the end of phase 1.
And what did phase 1 consist of?
Phase 1 consisted of installation of 2 new bioscreens, a grit removal system, and along the way we had to replace some return sludge pumps and some primary sludge pumps too as well. So there was some pumps that were in on that phase 1. Plus we had in January we had a main breakout in the yard that had to be repaired too as well.
Okay, so now we're closing out phase 1 hopefully fairly soon. Then we're going to start phase 2. Do you know what phase 2 consists of at this point?
Yeah, phase 2 we're looking at replacing our plate and frame presses. And the presses, what they do is they actually press the water out of the sludge. So we're sending solids to the landfill, the ones that we're wasting. So that actually takes the solids, removes the water best they can. We're required to do a 20% solids. That's the consistency of the solids which the state law and the landfill requires. So the presses are 1984 in that era. Finding parts, trying to fix them has been pretty hard. So we were looking at belt presses. So we're looking at replacing the plate and frame presses with belt presses.
Wow, so that sounds like it's pretty involved.
Right.
So, and we've got, of course, the big talk where we've got Athenex coming in. We have Philbrook Foods expanding. Are we going to be ready for all of that?
Yes, we should be ready.
Okay, that's great. So now, what else is going on in the plant that's really important, that's significant, that you think that the residents might be interested in?
Well, we have a shortage of operators, but the city has tried to do something about that. We've hired trainees. We're training these guys to become operators. So that's the biggest thing right now, having people here to run the plant and understand how it works and knowing what to do when certain situations arise. So these guys are getting trained, and we have a good crew of guys here, and it looks good.
And now, of course, the positions, the operators and operator trainees, those are all civil service positions, so there has to be tests that have to be taken. And these tests are given, I think, on a fairly regular basis. So in residents or individuals who are interested in becoming an operator trainee or an operator for the City of Dunkirk wastewater treatment plant, contact the county, get on the list, take those tests, because hopefully we will be, we have to use the list to fill the positions, so hopefully we will be filling some positions. So that would be very good. Let's head back to your office and talk about some of the things we're doing from a management point of view, some of the things that's been going on, because you've been very active as a supervisor, as a chief operator for the plant for many years now. So you've seen a lot of change. You've seen a lot of growth. You've seen changes in the administration, certainly. So tell me a little bit about what's happened from your point of view as far as the leadership, as far as the kinds of things that have taken place to make positive change.
Well, I think you asked the same question to Mike. Everybody has their own way of wanting things done, and we got to adjust to their needs and wants. When the new administration comes in, there's a little rocky road at first, but each one of us feels each other's out, and then we just keep going along.
Well, and you guys are the experts. You're the ones in the fields, and so that kind of makes a difference. This year, though, in 2018, Mayor Rosas has really been determined when it comes to training, when it comes to providing all of our employees with an opportunity to grow, to learn more professionally. A part of that included management training, and I think that was probably 6 weeks or something back in the early spring, and you participated in that. Tell me, how do you think that went?
I think it went real well. It was nice to get together with my fellow management employees there and learn some things and try to apply them to what we're doing here.
Well, and communication has been a key. Communication has been one of those things that we've really been trying to work on. Mayor Rosas, as a result of that training past this last spring, has been doing some bi-monthly meetings with our frontline staff, with our supervisors. Now, you have participated in at least one of those meetings. I think you missed the first one. Tell me, do you think that the lines of communication are opening up? Do you think things are getting better?
Yes, in that meeting, I saw a lot there, and that was good. I was able to say some things that needed to be said, I think, and he's well informed, and getting feedback from his departments is good. It's a good idea.
And, of course, and then he meets with his cabinet on a regular basis as well. So he feeds those things up to us. We talk about them. We try to sort through them, and we try to make a difference. We've also done some regular training that we needed, the diversity training, sexual harassment, shooter, gun safety if you've got a shooter in the workplace. And you also mentioned earlier that there was some training on a departmental level that you might need. And certainly, let the HR director know that. Let them know what's going on. Let me know what's going on if you need some special training. We want to make sure those things happen, because a trained employee, an employee who's got all the tools with which to work, is much better than an employee that just is put aside and said, just learn on your own.
That's correct. It's very important to train our employees. Number one, safety. Everybody needs to be safe at the workplace, especially, depending on where you're working. This places can be hazardous, Safety is the number one training thing you got to deal with. Educationally, the operators have to go every 5 years and renew their license. So we need to train in the field somehow and get course credits so we can renew our licenses. And I've taken the maintenance mechanic to one of the pump seminars, and that's good too. They need to learn about the pumps and to rub elbows with these guys that been there and done this. They get new contacts, and training helps us network with people. So it makes it better for us. And if we have a problem or something, we can lean on someone.
That's good. And of course, now with the supervisory training that you did, and you mentioned that you all got to sit around and talk about your different kinds of issues or problems, do you feel as if that has helped? Do you feel as if that has made a difference in your group, within your immediate team?
Yes, I think it has.
Okay. And so now we have a situation where we've got things going on. We've almost through with phase 1, getting ready to start phase 2. Are you up for it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we can keep going here. I can long retire, and we can still do some work here.
Now, let's not talk about retirement.
Okay. Well, that'll be a while. So, but yeah, there's plenty of work to be done here, and we're starting. That's the main thing. We started, and hats off to the mayor for doing this, because, this is long overdue.
Very good. Now, the mayor really has been involved, and when I say that, I know that people must think that I'm just, in his corner, and I am, but he truly has tried to make a difference, and transparency has been the key, and that's what City Speaks is all about. City Speaks is about transparency. City Speaks is here as a part of the mayor's vision to bring the residents in, to let them know what's going on. And this is a start. We've talked with our street supervisor. We'll be talking with our water filtration supervisor or chief operator. We're going to be doing a ride through with streets, talking with our park supervisor. So we care, the mayor cares, and we want to know what you all think. We want to know what the residents think, because this is a show for you. And Sean, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I know it was kind of off the wall, a little bit different, but sometimes different is good.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. And you take care. And you can watch City Speaks 7 days a week, 3 o'clock and 10 o'clock in the evening p.m. You can watch it anytime on the Dunkirk Access Channel, Spectrum 1301. Go to YouTube. It's there. If you miss one, you can go back and catch the ones that you missed. And let us know what you think. And thank you. Thank you for watching City Speaks.